just give another minute for the board members to join. I thought I saw Jackie. Just Celeste.
Other folks, Melissa, it could be me in the user error, but I'm having a hard time hearing you.
I'm muttering to myself. Sorry.
Okay, perfect.
I'm not really saying anything.
No. I was like, I may be having my own moment, but I just wanted to check.
It's me who's having the moment. I'm just making sure board members on before we officially start. Okay, I think we're ready to go. So let's get started. Welcome to the ERC board meeting. Let's start by taking roll for the board members. UG here. Rayon.
Here.
Celeste. I thought I saw her. Celeste. Could she not hear us?
I think she's muted.
I see you, but I can't hear you. Do you hear us, Celeste? Do you nod? I wonder if she can't hear us.
She's
Okay, we'll come back to Celeste. Kathy,
Here.
Jackie,
Here.
Angie,
Here.
Linda,
Here.
Holly,
Present.
and
My
Megan.
problem is I can't hear anything. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Now we can, but you can't hear us. That's important. Don't have a way to communicate, or maybe I need to write a message and hold up a sign. Moment.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Can you hear us? Can you hear us? No. Yeah, we hear you, Celeste. I'll text her, but. Okay, well, I won't count her as present yet. She wasn't able to say present. But we'll get through, we still have quorum, so we'll get through the first few things. Next item on the agenda is public testimony. No one registered to give public testimony, so we'll move on to item number 3, consideration and possible action to approve the minutes from our last board meeting, which was a special called advisory board meeting on November 20th. Do I have a motion and a second to approve these minutes?
This is Angie. I'll move to approve.
It's Kathy, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item is consideration and possible action to approve the consent calendar. This portion of the agenda is items that are routine and will be enacted in one motion unless separate discussion is requested by a member. I do want to note the highlighted items in the agenda were reversed. So I'm going to say what the actual list of extensions are that should be on the consent calendar, and then board members, you can let me know if you want any of them taken off. Or so the list of extensions that are on the consent calendar today are extension 10, UTD 154, Extension 12, UTD 181, extension 13, UTD 183, extension 14, UTD 200, extension 15, UTD 201, extension 16, UTD 206, extension 19, UTA 206, and extension 20, UTA 231. Anyone want to pull any of these off for discussion? And if not, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
This is Holly. I motion to approve.
This is Jackie, I second.
Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Great, thank you. So we're now to item 5. Let me check to see if Celeste has.
Yes, I'm on here now,
Yay, great. You can hear us, we can hear you. So you are officially present.
and I can hear you. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so we'll get started on additional data and amendment requests. So data 1, UH94. Any questions or comments from the board on this one?
For this one, I think the researcher listed
Zip codes.
zip codes, yeah, which is unavailable. Is that right, Linda?
I'm having Kathy's problem, honestly. Y'all are a little hard to hear for me, but
What is the microphone? Is it the speaker or is it your?
Thank you, Linda.
Do you
I remain a +1 to that, but then I felt like I couldn't say it, so thank you for being brave.
yes, let the minutes reflect. Kathy's validated.
We could do this microwave or the microphone from the computer instead of.
Yeah, I think I've had a couple researchers that wanted to request zip codes and that had been turned down, which is fine. I mean, and he actually wants the exact zip code for teachers in this one, I believe.
Right, I thought those were considered PII. So
So Kathy, can you hear us? Can y'all hear us better?
I can.
Now? Can you hear it
Yes.
better? Okay.
Yes.
So do you think it's a like does this
I think
mess up
Patrick is
anything?
on here.
Oh, great.
I am. Hi.
Hi.
Yes. Well, to my understanding, I thought zip codes were aggregated enough to not be PII. That's my understanding. But yeah, I am requesting the exact zip codes for teachers.
And it's not in the data, so
Correct.
is your work doable without that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
This is a separate question that has come up as I've been working on it. So, it's a very interesting question that I think it's a lot of policy potential. But everything else in my original request can still be done without this data. This is just an additional.
Great, thank you. Just wanted to make sure. Any other questions or comments about this project or extension request? What is this? Data request. If not, do I have a motion to approve? Do we need to do it with the amendment to take out the request for zip code data? Okay. Motion to approve with the amendment to remove zip code data. And please let us know if you start not being able to hear us again, because we can attempt to move microphones.
With the volume.
I'll move to approve with the amendment that the zip code request is removed.
This is Holly. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Data 2, UH100. Questions or comments from the board on this one? If there are none, do I have a motion and a second to approve?
I motion to approve UG.
This is
I'll
Jackie, I second.
All in favor?
I
Opposed? Motion Motion passes. Data 3, UTD 112. Questions or comments from the board on this one?
This one, my curiosity was, so where are the researchers planning on releasing or publishing the dashboards?
Hi, this is Jacob Kirksey. So we are building a new website for our research center. And so what we are hoping to do is have this be a resource for folks to interact with the dashboard, very similar to like E3 Alliance's dashboard that they've made before.
Any other questions or comments? Do I have a motion and a second to approve?
This is Kathy. I'll move to approve.
I'll second Celeste.
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
And I'm gonna again offer a comment. I'm so sorry, but you're still quiet.
No, thank you for telling us. Should I switch it to my computer one or your computer one? Let's switch it to yours and see. Okay. We've done that before. Must be that one.
Or if I, 1 second. He changed this one, so let me go back to this. Can you hear us better this time, or are we still quiet?
You're clear, UG.
Okay.
But I'm not. Is that the issue?
Now you are.
Okay.
Is that?
Yeah, that's better.
Please tell us if,
Yeah.
there's all sorts of issues happening here, so I wanna be heard, so let me know. Thank you. All right, so data 3, that was okay. Data 4, UTD 116. Questions or comments from the board?
Just a comment that this is UH 116 instead of UTD.
Thank you. UH1. Questions or comments? I have a note that the start and end dates might need updating in the proposal.
Mhm.
Approval date was 8/14/2025. That sound familiar?
And the requesting project period 5 years, so that will be 8/14/2030. But on the form, it says approval date 8/27/25 with the end date being 8/27/32. So that needs to be adjusted.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't miss that. And the 820, the slight off is probably a function of when they received the letter, and so that's just what they're.
Got it.
I'll have that updated.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? If not, do I have a motion and a second to approve with the amendment of the updated dates?
This is Angie. I move to approve with the updated date amendment.
I second, Eugene.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Data 5. Sure. Data 5, UTD 175. Questions or comments from the board on this one?
So this one, the original proposal we looked at included CBM 001, 002, 00S, and 009. And then with this data request, none of those CBMs are being added to extra years, right? It's new file, CBM AA, that the researchers are requesting. I just wanted to make sure.
There have been subsequent amendments. We're requesting data, all the data sets we're requesting, we've been approved for before, but it might have been we've had a couple different amendments. So I think it might have been the amendments, but these are all just extending the time period to go after when the transfers end. So we can see what happens when the transfers end for data sets we were previously approved for.
So but still, you're fine with all this. So you're just requesting CBM AA this time on the higher ed side. Is that correct?
Let me we're intending to basically request everything for the future time period so we had before. So let me double check if I had inadvertently not included one that I was supposed to include.
Yuji, can I interject? So I'm just looking at the table right now. And I think what I'm hearing you saying is that in this new data table, the research team is missing certain files that were in the original proposal. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, the question came up. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
If they want,
Right.
more, then yeah, it's not clear.
Can you articulate what those files are?
From the original proposal, so I haven't looked at other data amendments, but from the original proposal, we saw 001, 002, S, and 009. There was no AA.
Okay, so
I'm confused. I mean, maybe I'm missing. I'm seeing 00. I'm looking at the original proposal and I see 00A.
I think she said 008.
No, AA
Oh, it wasn't the original one.
wasn't in the
Oh, it wasn't? This one that's attached.
That we didn't look at. So that one was different from the original.
Oh, the one that
proposal.
we have on file
Yeah,
is different
back
than
in the
this one.
time when we approved in 2020. So,
But I guess what the other piece is, we didn't go back and look at all the other amendments, I guess, if there were other amendments prior, so.
I mean, this time you're only requesting AA, so I just wanted to make sure that's correct.
If that's correct,
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, we can move on, yeah.
But we
Yeah.
didn't track to
Yeah,
make
this
sure.
time we're only
Got all the
yeah, sorry. Yeah, this time we're only requesting 00A. I'll
Oh,
if that changes, we can, if we decide we want an additional one, we can we'll just do a additional request. I mean, I'll try to an additional session.
Okay.
So
Great. Right, there any other questions or comments? Do I have a motion and a second to approve?
this is Holly. I motion to approve.
This is Becky, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, data 6 UTD 192. Questions or comments on this one?
Just wanted to know 004 becomes unavailable from spring 23 and on.
Okay.
Thanks. This is Lois Miller. So there was just, we put some years in there that aren't available.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, no worries.
Great. Any other questions or comments? If not, do I have a motion and a second to approve?
This is Holly. I motion to approve.
This is Angie, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Data 7, UTD 211. Questions or comments from the board? And if there aren't any, do I have a motion and a second to approve?
This is Kathy. I move to approve.
I'll second Celeste.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Great. Data 8, UTD 226. Questions or comments? And if not, do I have a motion and a second to approve?
This is Rayon. I move to approve. This is Jackie. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, now moving on to item 6. Additional data and amendment request and extension requests. When we do a quick microphone check, mic check, can y'all hear me okay? Or do we need to? Okay. All right, so data 9 and extension 1, UH40. Questions or comments? So I think we had a question about, it says 2-year extension, but the date was just 1 year. The original approval was through 2027. Just wanted to check on that. If the request is just through 2028, that would be a 1-year extension, right? If it's 2 year, it would go to 29.
Yeah,
Right,
I
this
think
is this is
Go
Brian.
ahead.
I might have just miswritten it. I think the request is through 2028.
Okay, so a 1-year extension.
Yes.
Thank you for clarifying. Does that need an amendment? Or is the, we can just use the date? Does it say? Because I'm not looking at the form. There's a place that says 2 year. Okay. Can we? What?
Can we maybe amend it and then just get the right form?
Yeah, sure.
In our definition? Thank you.
If no other questions, can we have a motion and a second to approve with the amendment to clarify the 1-year request?
I move to approve with the amendment stated. Yuji?
This is Holly. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. You. Okay, data 10 and extension 2, UTD 169. Questions or comments on this one? And if not, do I have a motion and a second to approve?
This is Kathy. I move to approve.
This is Holly. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Right, data 11 and extension 3, UTD 180. Questions or comments? Or do I have a motion, second to approve?
This is Angie, I move to approve.
This is Jackie. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item, approval, consideration possible approval of extension requests. So with the new list, okay, so extension 4, 32. Questions or comments? If not, do I have a motion, a second to approve?
I move to approve, Celeste.
This is Holly, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Extension 5, UH42. Question or comments or a motion to approve?
I motion to approve. Eugene?
Didn't we do the unhighlighted ones as part of the consent?
I know I had to reread them. They were
Oh,
listed opposite, so
Okay.
yes. So sorry about that.
This is Jackie, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, extension 6. Questions or comments? Or motion second to approve.
This is Kathy. I move to approve.
This is Holly, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Extension 7, UTD 130. Questions or comments or motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Eugene?
I'll second, Celeste.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Extension 8, UTD 138. Questions or motion to approve?
This is Holly, I motion to approve.
I second. Eugene?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion passes. Alright. 9 on. Oh yeah, extension 9, UTD 142. Questions or comments or motion to approve?
I motion to approve. Eugene?
This is Angie, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 10 is on the new listed consent calendar. Extension 11, UTD 159. Questions or comments or motion to approve?
This is Kathy. I move to approve.
This is Holly, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Extensions 12 through 16 are in consent. Extension 17, UTA 147. Questions or comments or motions to approve?
I motion to approve. Eugene?
This is Jackie, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. And last one, extension 18, UTA 188. Questions or comments or motion to approve?
This is Kathy. I move to approve.
I'll second Celeste.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank y'all. Yeah, the last two are consent, right? Alright, so now on to item 8, consideration of possible action to approve new research projects. So the main show. Let's start with proposal 1, including remote access request, UH 123, suspensions in the school ecosystem, evidence from restorative practices in Texas high schools. We have a presentation for this one.
Yes, we're here.
Hi, welcome.
All right, thank you for having us. So we're interested in studying the effects of suspensions in high school on student outcomes, including academic outcomes like test scores and graduation, as well as outcomes related to teacher retention and principal effects. So specifically, the questions that we're interested in asking are, how do suspensions affect the students who receive them and their peers? How does a reduction in suspension rates affect teacher turnover? What is the role of the principal in setting suspension rates, and how does their decision affect and depend on student outcomes? And how do these three components of the school ecosystem interact? So since suspended students are observably different from non-suspended students, we're proposing to leverage the 2015 Texas restorative practices policy change that encouraged the replacement of suspensions with restorative practices. So just for a little background, the program was essentially meant to decrease the number of suspensions given to students, especially for minor classroom disruptions. So in thinking about benefits to Texas, our study will provide evidence on effective strategies for reducing classroom disruptions and supporting positive school climates. And our research will not only examine direct effects on students, but also broader impacts like peer and siblings spillover effects, which are often overlooked in policy discussions and can be answered using the rich Texas ERC data, which includes, of course, detailed classroom data to allow us to study the school ecosystem in its entirety. And Texas has a socioeconomically diverse student population, so this work can also present evidence about the effects of suspensions on students from various economic backgrounds. And additionally, the impact of these types of practices and suspensions generally on teacher turnover is not entirely clear. So while this policy, could empower teachers, it may also increase their workload. And since teacher attrition in Texas was 13% in the last school year, which has significant financial costs, our study will assess how this policy influences teacher retention.
Melissa, we can't hear you at all now.
Sorry. Thank you for your presentation. Questions or comments from the board for the researchers?
Yeah, I just had a question. So, well, first, thanks for studying an important topic, but in the abstract, you mentioned that you would also be looking at non-academic outcomes, and you mentioned you would be examining involvement in the criminal justice system, but I didn't see any mentioning of those kinds of outcomes in the reader's guide or in the proposal itself. And I don't know if this was just, oversight that you just didn't consider that,
Yes,
or is this something
yes.
that you are interested in examining?
Yes, no, this is something, it was an oversight. We'd included it initially, and then we removed it from the main section of the text, and we realized this week, actually, as we were reviewing, that we forgot to remove it. So
Okay.
that specific outcome we won't be considering
Okay.
at this point.
And the last research question that you asked, you're looking at how the different components of the learning, I guess 3 components of the ecosystem, I guess that's the student, teacher, and school, how they interact. But
final one, principle. Yeah.
yeah, okay, principles. So I didn't really understand how you would be doing that in your analysis. Could you just kind of articulate what that analysis would look like?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what we could learn from it?
Yeah, so for now, part of it's doing kind of trying to look at dynamics between effects. So a lot of the studies that have been done so far, I feel look at one of these effects individually. So they'll look at, the student outcomes or the teacher outcomes, but they don't really plug in. Then if something happens to students, what happens to teachers? So we also want to try and examine those effects interchangeably, I guess, or interactively with each other. So beyond just looking at one of these separately in a paper.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you.
I had another question about the research questions on. I know that you have requested a lot of the higher ed data, but I didn't really see that, and I was wondering in the questions. But I was wondering if question number 3, when you talk about depend on effect and depend on student outcomes, is that actually referring to college enrollment?
Yes, so for the enrollment part, we wanted to only look at enrollment and not like further college factors. So that's why we requested, all types of college enrollments there, like from community colleges, from like health programs, just so we could get like the full set. So we were trying to use those and not ask like for because I know that those data sets have a lot of elements there, but we were just trying to get the enrollment piece as an outcome.
Okay, I didn't know what student outcomes you were looking at, but I figured with all that data, you might be looking at college.
Yeah, so it's both like some short term and long term. So like some, so the short term are, the high school ones, so related to like test scores, graduation, and then the long term that we're looking at are both college enrollments. And then we also included wages as a longer run outcome.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
So along that line of student outcomes, is that including the workforce outcomes as well? Because you are requesting the wage data, but I didn't really see the inference between why you're requesting it.
Yeah, the reason was just to have like a especially long run outcome. I suppose at this point we're not sure, like hypothesis wise, if it will have an effect, but we wanted to test that too. So that was the reason why we included wages in there.
I think the proposal would benefit from a clear articulation of what those outcomes are.
Okay.
And particularly in light that it doesn't seem as if the outcomes that were measured or mentioned in the abstract kind of align with the discussion of the proposal narrative. And so I don't know if, because the first question is, it's very broad, like how does that affect? But it'll be, I think, the proposal would, benefit from kind of articulating exactly what are those short-term outcomes that you're looking at, long-term outcomes academically and in the labor market. I don't know how other board members feel about that.
Yeah. And another comment I had was the FERPA exception justification as well, that the proposal would definitely benefit with some more information about why this applies audit and evaluation FERPA exception. So I got the pieces together that since TEA established this program, that you're connecting it to audit or evaluation FERPA exception, but I think I had to draw that line by reading through the proposal. So if you could articulate research questions plus the FERPA exception, I think that will be beneficial.
This, sorry, just to clarify, this is for like the IRB exception then, or is this?
No, this is for to be approved for ERC data.
Oh, I see. Okay.
To meet the require FERPA exception, and you in your proposal you wrote it meets the audit evaluation FERPA, which means you're evaluating a specific policy or program. I think the request here was just being more specific about linking exactly what the program is and that it was established by TEA. It has to be a federal or state program policy. And so I think just a clear connection to, this was rolled out statewide, etc.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm wondering in terms of the questions that have been raised around the research questions. So I'm looking at the proposal and with respect to outcomes in the research methods, there's explicit description of the outcomes of interest, test performance, attendance, graduation, college. An agreement that that direct connection could be more explicitly stated in the research questions. I'm wondering, as we continue discussion, if if there may be an opportunity to whatever the language is, to consider approving with amendments provided, with respect to updating those same outcomes articulated in the research questions, and an update to Eugene's comment about FERPA, adding clarification to the audit and evaluation exception. I just wanted to put that out as we continue discussion as a possibility.
I mean, from my perspective, I think that's sensible. So
Yeah, I feel like it was, questions were easily answered, and so it's a matter of just making it more explicit in the proposal. But as long as the other board members feel okay with that, with approving, just knowing that's the amendment that will be added. Other questions or comments? It's important work. So if there's no other questions or comments, do I have a motion to approve with the amendment to add the specific outcomes to the research questions and add specificity to the FERPA exception language?
I move to approve with the amendments, Celeste.
I second Rayon.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
All right, proposal 2, including remote access request, UH 124, short and long-term effects of school shootings on the supply of Texas teachers. Do you have a researcher here to talk to us about this one?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, welcome.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Like the title says, I'm here to talk about the short and long-term effects of school shootings on the supply of Texas teachers. So we focus on two main research questions. The first is, are teachers directly impacted by school shooting incidents more likely to leave their current school or the profession than teachers who are not directly impacted? And then we'll look at that same thing for students who are impacted. So we look at our second research question is, are students directly impacted by school shooting incidents less likely to go into the teaching profession than students who were not directly impacted? So our research methods use kind of the staggered timing of these incidents to get at that causal impact of these incidents on the teacher pipeline in Texas. And so the ERC data will allow us to build a kind of complete picture of individual teacher and student labor market outcomes following these incidents to get at that causal impact on the teacher pipeline. And this work builds on previous work from Cabral and et al., who find that in Texas following these incidents, there's higher turnover, but less is known about what happens to those teachers following the incidents, right? So we know that there's more turnover, but we don't know if they're leaving the profession altogether. And if they are leaving the profession, what areas they're going to and what are the impacts on their wages. And we think that this research will benefit Texas by supporting the TEA Strategic Priority 1, which is to recruit, support, and retain teachers. And so we think that the recruitment piece comes from the students who are impacted. And then we believe that this research has the potential to influence policies to support and retain teachers following these incidents. And we think that will also impact teacher quality for students in Texas. So I'll pause there and see if there's any questions.
Great, thank you. Questions or comments from the board for the researcher?
I guess my question is, there was a very brief description of the supplemental data that would be used for the study, and I'm wondering, could you tell us a little bit more about the data that are in that supplemental data set, if there's any individual information in that data set?
So the supplemental data will be data on where these incidents occur. So that's at the school level, and there's no individual data as a part of those. So The Washington Post has one data set, and then there's another data set that's used for research on this that just includes the date of where an incident occurred, and it'll contain information on the number of people involved and things like that. But there's no individual data there. It's at the school level.
So you couldn't identify the age of the individual or the demographic makeup of that individual?
No, not to my knowledge.
Are we bringing that data into ERC to merge, or are you just using that information and then, I mean, so I'm just wondering, you know, what's your plan of using it in terms of merging?
Yeah, so we would merge the schools that are impacted and the timing of that to identify with the ERC data the folks who are impacted or the folks who are at those schools who have an incident. That'll be our treated group, and then the schools that don't will be our control group. Does that answer your question?
I think so. And for that purpose, I think we would probably request the data dictionary, since you are planning to merge it, and then we are not sure exactly what variables that you're bringing in. You can work with Holly, Kathy.
Me. All day long, I'm gonna be Holly.
All
I
right.
take it as a compliment. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Just
I think
one-
it's helpful for us to just see exactly what the indicators are. I hear you, it's at the school level and it's merged at that level, but kind of understanding the specific, it sounds like it's, you know, the date, number of people affected, things like that, but having a more specific written info on that is helpful to us.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Any other questions, comments from the board? If not, do I have a motion to approve with the amendment to add the detail of the supplemental data?
This is Kathy. I move to approve.
This is Angie. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
All right, proposal 3, including remote access requests, UH 125, ex ante moral hazard and student loan income driven repayment.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, welcome. Yes.
Thank you for having me. So to give a brief introduction to my project, aggregate student loan stands at $1.65 trillion currently and represents close to 10% of all consumer debt in the country. And with persistently high serious delinquency rates of close to 10%, there has been ongoing policy discussion surrounding student loan forgiveness. But notably, student loan forgiveness already exists, although not in the form that is often discussed in policy. In the last 5 years, close to $200 billion have been forgiven. And student loans can be forgiven through a handful of channels, but the bulk of present and future forgiveness comes through either income-driven repayment plans or complementary programs such as the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. And these plans allow borrowers to make income-contingent repayments towards their loans and receive forgiveness for any remaining balances after a set number of payments. Now, given this loan forgiveness structure, a natural question to ask is whether some students have increased their borrowing in anticipation that part of it would be forgiven. And in part, this would be a rational response to people's decisions if they had perfect foresight of their future income. But it is, however, possible that aversion to debt, as has been shown in past research, is high enough to prevent this behavior. So the response ex ante seems to be ambiguous. So as a result, what I try to do in my project is to answer the following questions. First, does potential student loan forgiveness induce higher borrowing? And if so, by how much? To answer these questions, I am requesting data access from the Texas Higher Education Coordination Board and its linked records with the Texas Workforce Commission. With the former, I can identify the academic records of the students in Texas and link them to their income trajectories over time. To address the questions that I aim to focus on, I propose to use the exogenous introduction of the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program to study whether students in majors that are more exposed to public service careers increase their borrowing more than students in other programs. And to do this, I need the industry codes from the Texas Workforce Commission and the major decisions or program decisions by the students to be linked. In terms of the benefits to Texas, Texas has 4 million student loan borrowers, and it's important to note that federal initiatives such as income-driven repayment plans could have contributed to the rapid rise in borrowing by borrowers all across the country. And given that Texas has the second largest population of borrowers, it seems highly important for the state when designing their own loan forgiveness strategies at the state level to determine what the federal intervention has cost. Yeah, open to any questions now. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board?
Oh, I was just going to say this is a really interesting question. So I'm curious what you'll find. And so hopefully you'll be able to disseminate your research to us because I think it does have very clear policy, implications for what federal and state policymakers do. So kudos to you for finding a really interesting topics to study.
Thank you.
I agree with that, but I also wanted to ask Angie, will the industry be close enough for them to be able to tell if it's public service?
That I'm not sure. I do believe there is a public service industry, but those industry codes are really vague.
Yeah.
Or just the Nexus codes. They're really broad. You could be working for, a hospital, but not be a doctor like that. So it's kind of iffy. That's about as specific as I can get. I do believe there is a public sector code. I'm not sure how often it is really used.
Yeah. Because I guess in the end, and it's not real clear on the research questions, but you'll need to know what industry and wage to be able to figure out if they've made their decision on their income, later income, I guess is what I'm saying. Eligibility for service, public service.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. It's not, I don't think it would be perfect. I was also not counting on relying on a public service tag per se, but more so tags that refer to education or healthcare, industries that are more linked towards public service. Yeah.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Thank you.
There are no other questions or comments. Do I have a motion to approve?
This is Jackie. I move to approve.
This is Holly. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
Great. Proposal 4, including remote access requests, UH 126, linking participation in community-based after-school programs to student success in Texas public schools. I'm here to
Yeah,
talk
hi.
to students. Hi, welcome.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Thanks for having me. My name's Corey. So this is a project that I'm working on in collaboration with the YMCA of Greater Houston, where they are very interested in understanding the overall educational impact of their after-school programs in Texas public schools in particular. YMCA of Greater Houston is the largest, if not one of the largest, providers of after-school care in the Houston area. I think it's about 5,000 kids annually per year go through the program. And they have very limited evidence on the educational impact they're having. They, in the past, have done some stuff on their end, trying to measure academic outcomes for the kids that go through their programs, but oftentimes it's not necessarily aligned with what kids are supposed to be learning at a particular grade in the state of Texas. For example, not necessarily aligned with the TEKS. And so this project represents sort of an opportunity for them to learn what the actual educational impact of their programs are on Texas public school students, at least in the Houston area. We have kind of 3 broad research questions that we're focused on. First of all, just sort of the general research question is sort of, is there an impact on students that go through their after-school programs in terms of their attendance? We can look also at kindergarten readiness as well as academic achievement as measured by the STAR exam. We're also interested in understanding if there's a certain sort of sweet spot in terms of the length in which they're participating in the program, the amount of days or just the number of weeks or months that they might be in the programs, as well as how successful their programs are based on different groups of students, right? Houston area is a very diverse region, and so we're interested in how the impact of their program might vary by things like grade level or gender, race, ethnicity, economic disadvantage, emerging bilingual status, as well as special education designation. The final question is really around what aspects of the programming really matter for student outcomes. So, for example, is there locational differences? And is it related to the staff to teacher or staff to student ratio? Is it related to characteristics of the staff, or in terms of the programmatic focus of various programs? Because they operate in 14 school districts across the Houston area, and each sort of program, while they have certain guidelines, have some flexibility in terms of the programming they're offering. So they're interested in those kind of questions as well. The benefit to Texas overall, and as well, honestly, just the literature on after-school programming in general, is that it's fairly limited. There's some research on the impact of after-school programs within public schools, but oftentimes, as is the case with the YMCA, it's difficult to link academic outcomes to students who go through these type of programs in outside organizations, because they don't often have access to students' actual educational records. So this is an opportunity to do that directly. The policy that this is related to in the state of Texas is around sort of, I think several years ago, the legislature authorized public school districts to contract with community organizations to provide these services, and that is exactly what the YMCA of Greater Houston is. It's one of those providers. I think the evidence from this project will be relevant to not only just the overall literature on the impact of after-school programs, but particularly around after-school programming in external programs to the public schools. And that's I'll stop there and take questions.
Great, thank you. Questions, comments from the board?
Is the YMCA program funded by state?
I'm actually not 100% sure on that. I know that they have some external funding to do a lot of this stuff, external and internal funding, but in terms of direct state funding, I'm not sure. I don't work at the Y. I'm at Rice University, so in terms of their actual funding model, I don't know. I know some of the research. The research that I'm doing in collaboration with them is funded by sort of by philanthropic organizations, but in terms of the actual programming for the after school programs, I'm not sure.
Thank you. I was just curious about the FERPA exception, since you were listing audit or evaluation, but since it's
and go ahead, sorry.
What are your thoughts? No, I just wanted to, what are your thoughts since it's specifically for state or federal supported?
Yeah, so the way I understood it, and of course, you all please correct me if I'm wrong, but these are after school programs that are directly contracted with education agencies and then sort of approved by TEA. So it's sort of an official contract that is existing between the YMCA and educational organizations. So whether or not any funding comes from the state for that, I'm not sure. I don't know if that helps, if that partially answers your question.
Yeah.
Not necessarily funded.
Yeah. No, I think this is helpful just
Okay.
to know all of those specific connections to
Yes.
the public area. So yeah, that's great. Thank you.
I have a question. Hey, Corey, how are you?
Hey, Celeste, how's it going? Long time no see.
Good. Yes, been a while. You didn't, I usually don't complain about this, but you did not request much data. And I just wondered if you needed a little more. And what I'm wondering is, there is a whole bunch of the early childhood data and you've just requested one, like yes or no if they're ready, K readiness. And I didn't know if you wanted any of the other, which might show a little bit more what programs they're in, such as the funding. And then the other thing you had mentioned specifically special ed designation, and there are several files now that are separated into even services they're receiving that give you a little more specifics on the special ed, the reason they're labeled special ed. So I just didn't know if you needed any other data.
Yeah, I suppose starting with the special ed, that might be useful. I may have, honestly, I've done a few ERC projects in the past, so I've probably had a little bit of path dependence in terms of like what I know about the ERC data. So that could be useful, yeah, because I think that's a good point that students are designated special ed for a variety of reasons. So maybe I can add some of that data.
Just special ed. Yeah, there's several files, but they're all for the special ed now.
Oh, thank you for that suggestion. As in terms of the kindergarten readiness outcomes, I have, as far as I understand, I'm asking for the M-CLASS and the Texas KIA outcomes. Are there other specific measures that you were suggesting might be useful? I'm open to suggestions, of course.
Well, there are now 7 early childhood data files, and they have different information in all of them. The one you requested, I think by the name of it is just yes or no if they're deemed school ready.
Okay.
But there's 6 other files that give you a little more information.
Okay. I can look into that and maybe I can add
at a later time.
Yeah, I think that's probably fine. What would be what would be the procedure if I wanted to add it for now? What would that look like?
I think some of them, if it's in line with what you've already written up and something like the special ed files, it's like something that would be easily added in an amendment today.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
To the extent, if you're wanting to think about adding a lot more, adding information that you hadn't kind of considered, that can always come in an additional data request later.
Okay, I think I'm leaning towards that, is doing additional data request if need be, just because I have plenty to work on in the short term, so we're good. And plus, I have some time because there's going to be some data merging with the YMCA data, so I don't even think I'll be able to get started right away anyways. Thanks, Celeste. That's appreciate
You're
you.
welcome.
Any other questions or comments? So before I suggest the motion, just want to confirm, would you like to today add in the amendment any of the special ed files or?
No, I'll do it at a
Wait.
later time.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve, Celeste.
It was Holly, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you much. Take care, y'all.
All right, moving to proposal 5, including remote access request UH 127, the effective grade retention. Yes, I'm going to talk about this one.
Hi, yes, we're here. Thank you for having us. So in this project, we estimate the effect of grade retention on students' short and long-term outcomes. Grade retention is widely used to improve the academic achievement of low-achieving students. However, the results are mixed. Some studies show that grade retention initially increases test scores, while others show that it increases dropout rates and crime. However, this paper focused on students who barely fail or barely pass the test score threshold. We know little about how the grade retention policy affects a broader student population. So in this project, we aim to address 3 questions using Texas grade retention policy. First, does the grade retention policy motivate a broader student population to study harder? Second, do newly retained students generate spillover effect in their subsequent classroom? Third, how do the effect of grade retention on short and long-term outcomes vary by grade level, class assignment, and other factors? Texas ERC data are essential to this project because previous studies have focused on the short-term effects of grade retention, but this may differ from its long-term effect. So Texas ERC data enable us to estimate the short and long-term effects of grade retention on students' outcomes like test scores, high school graduation, college enrollment, and earnings outcomes. The result of this project will have a great policy implication for policymakers in Texas. We all know that holding students back in a grade for 1 year is expensive. It's important to understand whether the benefits of grade retention exceed the cost. Our project will help the policymaker better understand the broader impact of grade retention policy by evaluating the spillover and the incentive effect on a wider student population. That's all for the brief. We would like to hear your comment and questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board for the researcher?
I saw ACT and SAT files that are no longer available in ERC in the requested data table. Can you still do this research without those 2 files?
Yeah, we can, because we also have like college enrollment and graduation outcome data. Yeah.
Other questions, comments? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve, Yuji.
This is Jackie, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Proposal 6, including remote access requests, UT 242, returns to credits versus credentials, evidence from academic dismissal policies. You want here to talk about this one?
Yeah, hi everybody, this is Jack Mountjoy. Can you hear me okay?
Welcome. Yes.
Great, excellent. This is actually my this year is my 10th year anniversary of proposing ERC projects. So thank you all for making this possible.
Happy anniversary.
What is,
Thank
what
you.
is that? Wood, silver? I don't know what the 10-year
Yeah,
anniversary.
I don't know. We got to come up with something for that. All right, so in this project, we're after the question of how much of the socioeconomic returns to go into college are driven by two different factors. One is incremental credit accumulation, basically coursework, learning, you could say, versus the pure sheepskin effect of just obtaining a formal credential at the end. And I think disentangling between these two channels is really important for all kinds of policies. And specifically, we think about performance-based funding allocation. So when we give appropriations to colleges based in part on student outcomes, we care a lot about this. Also, degree completion grants and plenty of other experiments that we're seeing in the policy space. Or, should we focus on that sort of persistence to degree completion angle, or should we just focus more broadly on expanding college access? If incremental credit accumulation is really what is driving the bulk of the returns, then we just want students to get to college and do more college. But if most of the returns are only unlocked after actually obtaining a formal credential, then it's much more important to focus on these policies that try to push students to the finish line. So existing research on this topic, there's a lot of it, but it actually almost always just involves observational comparisons of students who differ in their credit accumulation and their degree outcomes. And of course, those students are probably going to differ in all kinds of ways, leading to apples to oranges comparisons that might confound causal interpretation. So our approach instead is going to be to compare the outcomes of students who are at different points in their college careers, whose end of semester GPAs happen to fall just above versus just below their college's threshold for academic dismissal. Every Texas public university has academic dismissal policies based on end of semester GPAs. This is a very common policy across pretty much every university nationwide. And what's nice about this is that students who are just above versus below these thresholds are by definition, nearly identical at baseline, allowing for apples to apples comparisons. But then whether you're just above or just below the threshold leads to abruptly different likelihoods of obtaining additional credits thereafter and obtaining degrees eventually down the road. So we're going to compare students, both early in their careers who fall just above or below these thresholds, and students late in their college careers close to graduation who fall just below these thresholds. And putting that kind of variation together is going to allow us to back out the distinct contributions of credit accumulation versus actually earning credentials in driving these overall returns to college attendance. So that's our broad goal. And I should say that the results from this project are also going to be directly informative about what these academic dismissal policies currently do. The extent to which barely getting dismissed actually has negative downstream effects on students' socioeconomic outcomes, tells us that maybe some of those students would have actually benefited from further enrollment. Conversely, it's possible that dismissal might actually save some struggling students from incurring additional costs that might not lead to degree completion and allow them to start full-time work more quickly. So that could be net beneficial to the students and the state. So our results are going to help directly adjudicate between those contrasting possibilities to better inform policy and practice in our Texas public universities. So that's the overview. I'd be happy to take any questions or comments you have.
Great. Thank you very much. Questions or comments from the board?
This is more my usual data question. You're requesting a lot of TEA data, and I just wondered how you were going to use that data.
Yeah, that data is really important for us to think about the pre-college characteristics of these students. So a big part of our research design is comparing these students who are just above versus just below these GPA thresholds when they're in college. But we want to do a whole bunch of tests to make sure that those students are really apples to apples comparisons. So we want to look at things that were determined prior to college. So things like, their test scores in high school, what kind of classes they took, how recently they graduated, demographic characteristics that are not necessarily in the higher ed data, but in the TEA data. So all of that stuff is really to help us do those sort of balance checks of seeing that students who are just above versus just below these thresholds are very similar to each other. And then also, for separate questions about heterogeneity in these results. So do different types of students from different backgrounds experience different impacts of falling above versus below these thresholds? So the TEA data is also super useful for that.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve, Celeste.
This is Jackie, I second.
All in favor?
I
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much, everybody.
All right, proposal 7, including remote access request UTD 243, expanding access to college credits.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Welcome.
So I can start by motivating this project a bit. So in the US, high school students can take courses that may count towards college credit through a bunch of different programs. Common examples are advanced placement, international baccalaureate, and through dual enrollment. And I think that the ability to gain exposure to college level coursework as well as credit in high school itself can influence a range of student outcomes, including major choice, the decision to enroll in college, college completion, loan accumulation, and even labor market trajectories. However, there appears to be a pretty small set of literature that actually looks into the impacts of receiving different kinds of credit, as well as the policies that sort of alter the margins of who can get credit. And so that's sort of the gap that I'm trying to fill in this literature. Towards this, in this project, there are 2 initiatives in Texas that I would like to study. These initiatives have effectively expanded access to college credit. One is a college level policy reform, and one is a high school level program. So, starting with the college level policy reform, I'm interested in studying the impacts of Texas House Bill 1992. It was first implemented in 2015 and basically established that public universities in Texas may not require a minimum AP score higher than a 3 for college credit. Prior to this bill, many universities set higher score thresholds, and so by lowering these thresholds, this bill enabled a broader population of Texas students to receive college credit based on their AP test performance. Turning to sort of the high school level program, I'm interested in looking at the early college high school model. It was piloted in the early 2000s, but it appears to have significantly expanded statewide ever since. And I think the key interesting component of this model is that they target students underrepresented in higher education and enable them to earn substantial credit, especially often up to an associate's degree at no cost. And so, because these 2 programs or policies share a similar goal of expanding access to both college material and the ability to get credit, but target students at different levels of their education pipeline, I think it would be valuable to study both their effects on academic outcomes as well as longer term college and labor market outcomes. I've already mentioned this in my proposal, but I currently have an existing ERC project that does focus on House Bill 1992, but I'm submitting this new proposal since I think that combining the early college component with that allows me to broaden the scope of what I can sort of learn about the impacts of expanding access to college credit. In terms of policy relevance, I think first, the AP credit policy component would provide policymakers, especially in Texas, with information on how House Bill 1992 actually ended up impacting Texas students. It could also be informative of whether, policymakers should make further changes to college credit policies. And I think it would also be useful to advisors at universities who may be helping students decide what high school credit to declare. On the early college high school front, the Texas Educational Agency seems to, have invested significant time in developing these early college high school blueprints and setting the related standards for them. And so, given the investment in this program, I think evaluating sort of the causal effects of early college high school on student outcomes is useful to understand their value to the overall education system in Texas. It also appears that the expansion of these programs is currently ongoing. And so evidence on the impacts of these schools could inform policymakers and school districts more broadly about the potential benefits of continued expansion. So yeah, happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board for the researcher?
Yeah, I had a question about the FERPA exemption. It's listed as falling under studies, but I wonder if it could also be audit or evaluation because the one part is policy, but the early college, high school sounds more like a program. So just for my understanding, since I'm, with the Workforce Commission, I don't come from the education academic background. I'm not sure how that would best fit for this study.
I guess the House Bill 1992 one, you're right, could absolutely fall under audit and evaluations because it is a statewide policy that's been implemented. I think I just had a hard time trying to figure out how both of them kind of related to each other, but I can definitely add that in if you think that makes more
Yeah,
sense.
and that's where like I would like to hear from other board members because they may have more clarity on that than I do if they have more of an education background.
I'm just wondering if the study meets at least one of the FERPA exemptions, isn't that the bar that should be crossed?
I think it's probably better to, if there are clear research questions and some fit one and some fit the other, I think it's probably better to be specific about that. But I think it easily fits the audit and evaluation, that part. So
I thought so too with the early high school program because that does clearly look like a publicly funded program, whereas one part is policy. So yeah, I don't know if maybe some specific research questions for the program should be audit and evaluations, and one for the policy should be studies.
Yeah, I guess, our interpretation of the audit evaluation exception is that it would have to be like a commission study to fit underneath that exception. I think that's why we recommended it doesn't have to be. So is kind of the next step to articulate that this study would meet the studies and the audit evaluation exception?
so. I think we also have this comment is some places it wasn't quite clear how, I mean, it could be added exactly how the findings would affect improved instruction. So either specificity about that or adding this is audit evaluation of a state policy. I mean, I think it's just about the specificity of connecting it to the exact work.
Yeah, I think I think it makes sense to revise the FERPA statement to reflect that it's an audit or evaluation then.
It definitely seems relevant. I feel like it wouldn't be too hard to.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thanks for that clarification. That helps me too. Make sure I'm understanding it correctly.
Any other questions or comments from the researcher? Not, do I have a motion to approve with the amendment of revising the FERPA statement?
This is Holly. I motion to approve with the amendment to revise the FERPA statement.
This is
I'll
Angie. I'll second. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Angie. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
Great. Proposal 8, including remote access request UTD 244. Can curriculum materials increase student engagement and engagement in math and statistics? Quasi-experimental study of skew the script's effects on student outcomes. Sorry. Anyone here to talk to us about this one?
Yes, hello, good afternoon. Eric Taylor here. So in broad terms, our proposal is a project about student engagement and attention in math class, and how that engagement affects math achievement growth. Think of the old cliche of a student saying, when are we ever going to use this in real life? In practical terms, what we will do is estimate the causal effects of curriculum materials, lesson plans, student assignments, those sorts of things. Curriculum materials created by an organization called Skew the Script. So Skew the Script is a Texas nonprofit. It was founded and continues to be led by a San Antonio high school teacher. And what they do is they create lesson plans and assignments that are built around practical applications that match up with high school students' interests, and then provide those materials free of charge online to teachers who want to download them. In this project, we are focused on AP statistics courses. That's where Skew the Script began creating materials. They more recently expanded to Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, and we hope to study those in the future, but this is a project about AP statistics. So what we will do is we'll estimate the causal effects of Skew the Scripts materials on a variety of student outcomes, certainly achievement in AP statistics, but also success in other math courses, and also college outcomes like applying, enrolling, completing college, and finally labor market outcomes. We'll do that by comparing students in the same school who took AP statistics before and after the teacher in that school began using Skew the Script. And we'll also compare those schools that use Skew the Script to other schools that don't, to account for sort of general trends in AP stats or other outcomes. And in terms of benefit to Texas, our sense is that the research that we're doing and Skew the Scripts approach stand to benefit Texas students and the Texas economy more generally. Math skills are only becoming more and more important to success in the economy. And lesson plans and assignments which match up with students' interests and engage students' attention promise to both increase their math achievement during school, but perhaps more importantly, to help students imagine themselves in math and STEM careers. And the design principles used by Skew the Script to create curriculum are principles that can be used in other subjects, that can be used by other curriculum developers, or even by individual teachers. So this is not just about one specific organization, but as an example of what's possible. So all of which we think is to the benefit of student engagement and learning. So thank you for considering our proposal.
Great, thank you. Questions or comments from the board, researchers?
Curious,
Go ahead, Yuji.
how many schools are using the Skew the Script curriculum for AP?
So nationwide, it's in the thousands at this point. And I don't have the number in Texas off the top of my head, but a good number of them are because the program began in Texas and I think has mostly spread there.
So if the schools are using this Skew the Script curriculum for AP Stat, is it likely that teachers will be using only this curriculum versus other curriculum?
Yeah, not necessarily. This isn't like I mean, you could do a few of Skew the Script's lessons, you could do many of their lessons, and we do see variation in the number of lessons. The visibility we have to that is the number of lessons that an individual teacher has downloaded, and we do see variability in that.
Yeah.
I was just curious if you thought of it. I know you're going to be comparing schools that have adopted this and some that haven't. Have you considered comparing students that take regular AP stats and then the ones with Skew the Script AP?
Yes. In fact, thank you for asking that question. That's exactly what we have in mind. So imagine students who took AP statistics in Washington High School years before a teacher started using Skew the Script, and then students in that same high school who took AP statistics while the teacher was using Skew the Script. So these will all be students who took AP statistics, but just with and without Skew the Script.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Just wanted, because appreciate the write-up of the two different options for the supplemental data, but wanted to hear your thoughts on, without that data yet, what parts of the study are still doable?
Yeah. We have an update on that front. I know
okay.
The proposals went in a few weeks ago, but just a week or 10 days ago, we heard back from the College Board that their approval process, their board that approves these kinds of requests, has approved our request. What does that mean? That means that the College Board is willing to let TEA share the AP test score data with us for this project and merge them to the ERC. Of course, we hope TEA will also be willing to do that, but we started with that first step.
And just to add to what Eric said, I did forward an email from the College Board showing that that request was approved by the College Board. And so Melissa, you were on that email as well as Linda and Nina. And so I'm not sure if you read that email, but I sent it just to inform you, but also to start the process of trying to create kind of like a revised data sharing agreement for Eric to get those data.
As that is going through the process, though, what pieces of this could you do without having access to it?
Well, we can get started looking at both understanding the trends of what was happening in these schools leading up to the use of Skew the Script. So the ERC data as they stand do include records of which students took AP statistics. So we can sort of start to understand, what was going on in these schools more generally and whether there were changes in enrollment in AP statistics. And I guess we could also start to look at some of the longer term outcomes as well. So there's a variety of things we can do.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? If there aren't any more, do I have a motion to approve?
This is Holly.
Can't you move to approve? Right.
This is Holly. I second.
Holly, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, proposal 9, including remote access requests, UTD 245, investigating potential compounding consequences of high stakes testing, examining administrative discretion and grade retention decisions, and linguistic barriers in Texas. Someone to talk about this one?
Yeah, hello. My
Hi.
name is Vicky Han. I'm an assistant professor at Texas A&M, and this is a joint proposal with Amin, who's also on the call, so he could answer questions later on if you have. So, thanks for having us here. Our proposal examines two connected factors in the Texas's test-based accountability system that may shape student outcomes, which is first administrative discretion and grade retention decisions, which is partly based on the standardized exam scores, and the linguistic complexity of those standardized exams. So first, we examine how administrative discretion is used to decide retention among students with similar test scores, assuming that those that scored just below and just above the threshold are academically similar. We aim to understand that whether this discretion operates differently across student subgroups, teacher characteristics, and administrator characteristics. And we also examine the longer term effects of these decisions. We already have the standardized exam proficiency threshold, so we would need to link them to student test score and retention data, as well as data on the subsequent academic achievement, including test scores and later grades, graduation rates, and college enrollment. Second part of this proposal, we analyze the linguistic features of the standardized exams. We have full access to the STAR assessment forms, so we explore the vocabulary sophistication, how complex the syntax is, like does it use passive constructions, and cohesion features across items and passages. So we want to examine whether these linguistic characteristics make items more challenging for specific student subgroups, especially bilingual students and ESL students. We think combining these two strands of research on how tests are designed and how decisions are based on them would provide a comprehensive view of how assessment language and administrative discretion would influence students' academic trajectories. Ultimately, we want this work to help identify what are some unintentional barriers or support improvements in the test design that we can make to inform TEA's development of the new student assessment tools under the potential House Bill 8 so that the assessments are more accurately and equitably reflected in student learning across Texas's diverse student population. Looking forward to questions and comments.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board for the researchers? There are none. Do I have a motion for approval?
This is Kathy. I move to approve.
I second Eugene.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, proposal 10, including remote access request, UTD 246, extracurricular involvement and student short and long run outcomes. Researcher here for this one.
Yeah, hi everyone. So this project examines the role of high school extracurriculars in shaping students' short and long run outcomes. In Texas, hundreds of thousands of high schoolers participate in extracurriculars every year. These activities represent major time investments and for school districts, major financial investments. But there are a lot of reasons to believe extracurriculars may be important in students' lives. So they might build social and emotional skills that are increasingly valuable in modern labor markets. They may also expose students to role models or social capital. And simply practice obligations may just keep kids out of trouble. But on the other hand, it's possible that there's a trade-off between the amount of time a student practices football and the amount of time they spend studying. So on this project, I will make use of the rich variety of outcomes available in the Texas ERC data, as well as course enrollment records that identify students receiving physical education credit for participation in extracurriculars, to try to better understand the role that participation plays in shaping students' outcomes. As an initial step, I will analyze just descriptively who participates in extracurriculars in Texas and how these participation rates have changed over time. Next, I will look at the associations between extracurricular participation and students' short and long-run outcomes. The outcomes I'm primarily interested in include attendance, disciplinary incidents, their courses they take in high school graduation, college enrollment and their degree fields in college, and then their adult earnings. After documenting these associations, I plan to then analyze whether these differences in student outcomes represent the causal effects of sports. To do so, I plan to employ a number of statistical methods that rely on, as sort of Jack had used the terms apples to apples comparisons between participants and non-participants. And then finally, to understand what factors in extracurriculars sort of drive these effects, I plan to employ statistical methods that rely on natural variation in the instructors of these activities, as well as the characteristics of the peer cohorts within these activities within schools and over time, to understand how these social influences might drive the effects of extracurriculars. So this work will benefit Texas in a number of ways. First, I plan to combine these causal estimates and these descriptive differences in students' outcomes with district level expenditure data on extracurricular expenditures to estimate the basically return on investment of extracurricular funding. And then these results also speak to a few specific policies, including Texas's no pass, no play rule, which sets academic eligibility thresholds for extracurricular participation, as well as the policies that allow students to receive course credit for extracurricular participation. So this research should help us understand whether these policies sort of strike the right balance between extracurricular engagement and academic coursework. I'll leave it there, but I'm happy to answer any questions, and I just want to say thank you very much for all the work you do.
Thank you so much. Questions or comments from the board for the research?
I have a quick procedural question. Patrick, is this is for your dissertation work, I'm assuming?
Correct.
And I assume Dr. Martorell is your advisor?
Exactly.
So I thank you. And this is more for the board, not Patrick, not for you. Could someone help jog my memory about our practice of including advisors on projects or not? I feel like we've had this conversation off and on, and I just want to confirm that what our current status is.
They are listed somewhere, right? In the proposal. Yeah. But does it need to be, the question is, does they need to be officially on?
I guess my question specifically is around data access. It's not about listing.
Yeah.
It's not about listing them as connected, but I see him on the remote access request too. And I don't have a dog in this fight. I've seen this implemented both ways, and so I just wanted to understand.
I mean, I think it has happened both ways. So if we feel like proposed one way, but we should suggest a different way, we can bring that up here.
I have a question now. So is it just a matter of adding Paco's name to the title page? Is that it? Like
that's not my question is at some point I have memory that we discussed that there was some discussion that advisors shouldn't have access to the full set of data, but we're serving in advisory roles. But I either could be misremembering that, and or we may have shifted our perspective on that.
Sorry, I thought all projects could have up to 5 researchers with data access.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is just a very specific question about about doctoral work and an advisor having access to the ERC tied because and I guess my question is I don't want to make it more complicated. I like I said, I'm asking
No, I
this
hear you,
question
Kathy.
openly, and I don't feel strongly one way or the other. I think I'm just looking for clarity.
But I don't think there's anything on the books official either way, but I think it seems common to me that when we approve it, the advisor is approved to also have the same level of access. But I don't think we've written that down anywhere to say that's the standard it should be, or if there's a different one. But if somebody else has a memory of that being.
No, I mean, I think we could, make it a little more clear. I know that the last time I had an undergraduate, there was an issue of actually needing to get a written letter from their advisor, and which was fine. But I'm saying there are some kind of differing, standards, I guess, which maybe they just need to be written down or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So I would say for now, if the board has, like the way it is proposed now, if there's a concern, let's suggest what we would rather. But but there's not necessarily a policy that has been written, and we can put that on the list of things to continue to discuss. Other questions or comments?
Without, sorry. Because you listed that you're planning on getting supplemental data by aggregating publicly available information or rosters. Can your research still be done while you're collecting that info?
Yes, exactly. So all the research can still be done with the data available in the ERCs.
Okay, got it. Yeah, additional data, yeah. In the requested data table, I think, usually we see requested sectors as well, CTCs or universities or HRIs, etc. But I didn't see that in the table. I don't know if you mentioned it elsewhere in the proposal that I missed, but it will be helpful if you could list that clearly for the requested data. And I'm looking at page 14 of the full proposal.
You said the sectors of the data?
Right.
Like 2 years, public 2 years, public 4 years, privates.
And I'm referring to THCD data.
Yeah, only the higher ed data, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so Patrick, you request CBM 001. I think what they want to see written in the proposal is that you're requesting those data for 4-year, 2-year technical colleges. And so we can help you kind of, articulate those specific sectors for those files.
Should be easy enough to add.
Yeah, that's pretty easy.
And along with that line, I was just curious, why are you requesting other THCB data to most recent versus for WS it's 2023? Because we have a few data files that ended in 2023, but WS is not one of those. I just wanted to make sure.
Oh, I see. So I know that the CBM OCS, didn't that start in 2022, correct?
Yeah. So that doesn't replace WS, right? WS still continues.
Okay.
So
okay.
Yeah. Whereas
So,
004 stopped.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
Any other questions or comments? There are none. Do I have motion to approve with the amendment of updating the THCB data request?
This is Kathy. I move to approve with the updated amendments.
I'll second Celeste.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Right, proposal 11, including remote access request, UTA 281, JET propulsion, quasi-experimental evaluation of Texas job and education for Texans, JET grant program. Anyone here to talk about this one?
Hi, y'all. Can you hear me okay?
Hi. Yes.
Hey, everyone. Good to see you. I'm Matt Gianni. I'm submitting this proposal with my collaborators, Brian Jacob from the University of Michigan, as well as Madison Andrews and Kim Pack from UT. We're proposing an evaluation of the JET program, Jobs and Education for Texans. This is a fairly substantial grant program that was administered by the Texas Comptroller's Office from 2009 to 2015, before it transitioned to the Workforce Commission in 2016, and it's been administered by TWC over the past decade. We know that one of the growing concerns in K-12 education is preparing students for careers, And one of the most prominent strategies for doing that is increasingly career and technical education. The majority of students in high schools in Texas participate in at least some CTE coursework. About a quarter of students concentrate or take 3 or more credits while they're in high school. But one of the challenges that many districts face in developing and offering CTE programs is acquiring the equipment and technology that's needed for some of the courses, particularly the more advanced courses. So examples are things like equipment you might need to train future healthcare professionals in a medical program, construction technology programs that might require all sorts of equipment that prepare students for advanced manufacturing fields, and so forth, right? So because districts might be credit constrained and it's challenging for them to acquire this equipment financially, the JET program is a competitive grant program that districts can apply to in order to receive funding that allows them to acquire the types of equipment and technology that allows them to offer CTE courses. So we're proposing a study of that program. To our knowledge, it has not been formally evaluated, so this would be the first evaluation of this type of program. And there's similar programs in other states, but generally a kind of dearth of research on the effects of these programs on student outcomes. So, of course, using the ERC data would be extremely useful. We would be able to look at the proximate outcomes of students' kind of CTE course taking, how many credits they complete, the types of credits they complete, whether they earn industry certifications, and so forth, as well as examine students' longer-term outcomes, whether they go to college, their earnings after high school, and so forth. And we have a data sharing agreement already in place with the Texas Workforce Commission, and we have folks there that we're collaborating with to receive the district level data on the applicants and awardees of the JET program. So we essentially would take that supplemental data, which is just at the district level, it's not student level PII or anything, and then we would merge it in with the ERC to identify the districts that applied for and were awarded JET grants in particular years. That would allow us to use various quasi-experimental techniques, such as difference in differences, to compare the CTE student outcomes as well as students' longer-term outcomes for students in districts that received JET grants compared to those who didn't. And in addition to that approach, applicants also receive scores and there's a threshold that's essentially used to award JET grants in each year. And that should allow us to use regression discontinuity to essentially compare districts just above the award threshold to those just below the award threshold and the effect of receiving a JET grant on student outcomes. Yeah, so that's a high level summary. Happy to take any questions or comments you have.
Great, thank you. Questions or comments from the board?
Hey, Matt. I think I didn't see any bios for the other researchers on the project in the proposal. I don't know if
Really?
they were it was just yours. And I don't know if this is something that I missed or, but yeah, I didn't see like a bio for Brian Jacob or anyone else.
For some reason, it looks like in the full proposal under researchers qualifications, I did include everyone, I think. But you're right, in the summary at the top, maybe just for page limit considerations, I only have mine, but I do have more detail on my collaborators and their
I
qualifications.
mean, I don't know if
full
that matters
proposal.
or not, but
Well, it matters to me. I feel bad for excluding all of their qualifications because that was unintentional. But
yeah.
thanks for pointing that out.
You do mention on page 15 of the main proposal.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Okay. Matt, do you need AA as well? That will show students enrolled in CTE courses for the purpose of your study.
Yes, probably. That would be wonderful.
Do you want to say C already?
He hasn't. So C as well.
I would suggest the C as well. That's the course for it's not course by student, it's the aggregate course information for CTA or continuing ed courses.
Okay, that's really helpful. Yes, I would love to receive that data.
Any other questions or comments? If not, do I have a motion to approve with the amendments to add a request for the CBM A and CBM C?
It's Kathy. I move to approve.
I'll second Celeste.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thanks for being here.
Thank you all.
All right, proposal 12, including remote access request UTA 282, the return on investment of higher ed funding reforms, evaluating the effects of the return value funding model and student-centered affordability policies. Anyone here to talk about this one?
Hi.
Hi, welcome.
Hello, my name is Denise Agandara. I'm an associate professor of Ed Leadership and Policy at the University of Texas at Austin. And I'm joined here by my colleague, Justin Ortegas, who's a professor at UT with a joint appointment in Ed Leadership and Policy and the LBJ School of Public Affairs. And the proposal that we are presenting today was also developed in collaboration with Elizabeth Bell, who's also an assistant professor at the LBJ School of Public Affairs. So our proposed project would evaluate post-secondary finance reforms intended to enhance educational and workforce outcomes in Texas. And in particular, we propose to evaluate two types of post-secondary finance reforms. The first is an outcomes-based funding policy reform, and the second is tuition-free college programs, which are also known as promise programs. So first, we aim to evaluate the state's return value formula funding model for the Texas State Technical College system. And this was adopted in 2014. And this model incentivizes Texas State Technical Colleges, or TSTCs, to prioritize the attainment of high-value credentials and improve workforce outcomes. And it does so by directly tying 100% of state appropriations to post-graduation earnings. This model has sparked interest from policymakers across the nation seeking to align educational outcomes with labor market needs. But despite this potential, rigorous evidence on the impacts of this particular funding reform remains limited. So in this study, we would examine the following research questions on the TSTC return value formula. First, to what extent did the TSTC return value formula affect its students' educational and workforce outcomes? And second, by what mechanisms did the return value formula affect its students' educational and workforce outcomes? The second higher ed funding reform in Texas that we aim to evaluate through this project is the set of regional tuition-free college or promise programs. And we've identified 22 of these in Texas. And these programs aim to increase educational and workforce outcomes, but they do so by incentivizing and supporting students rather than institutions. Now, promise programs provide free tuition to eligible students in local communities, and some also offer additional support services such as academic and career advising. While some promise programs in Texas have received national attention for their potential to reduce barriers to post-secondary attainment, their effectiveness in improving educational and workforce outcomes also has yet to be rigorously evaluated. Therefore, we propose to address the following research questions related to promise programs. What are the impacts of promise programs in Texas on students' educational and workforce outcomes? And what are the impacts of these programs on local communities' economic outcomes? This research can inform state policymakers considering the adoption of outcomes-based funding for other institutions or revising existing outcomes-based funding models, including the return value formula or House Bill 8 here in Texas. Findings can also inform local and state officials in Texas and beyond who are considering designing tuition-free or promise college policies to help meet the state's goals to increase post-secondary credentials of value. Thank you for your consideration of our proposal, and I welcome any questions you have.
Thank you so much. Questions or comments for the researchers?
Yes, I see that you requested the county data from the wage files, and I just wanted to warn you not to use either of the county fields as that data is not accurate.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Other questions or comments? We'll say I'm really interested to see what you find on this, so.
Us too. Thank you.
Do I have a motion and a second to approve?
This is Rayon. I move to approve.
I'll second, Eugene. Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Great. Proposal 13, including remote access request to UTA 283, public disinvestment and equality in higher ed. Evidence from state budget cuts. Have our presenter for this one.
Yeah, that would be me.
Hi, welcome.
I'm Taylor. Yeah, thanks. I'm Taylor Landon. I'm an assistant professor at Brigham Young University. My co-author Anthony Yim is also on the call here. And so essentially with this project, we're thinking about public universities. And as we know, public universities play a prominent role in promoting economic mobility. Increasingly, though, we've seen a lot of fiscal pressures as there's been a lot of shocks to state appropriations for public universities. And so these funding shifts have raised a number of important questions, importantly about how institutions, specifically public universities, adapt and how those adaptations may ultimately affect student achievement and other longer run outcomes. And so what we in our project are attempting to do is provide causal evidence of the effect of state appropriation shocks on the supply response of universities. And so to be a little bit more specific, the first question we're interested in is knowing how public universities adjust their instructional resources when there is a shock to these state appropriations. We will be thinking about things like changes in course availability, faculty hiring patterns, say hiring tenure track faculty versus non-tenure track hiring, class sizes, and even the distribution of resources across academic departments. And this would be our first order concern, the supply responses of universities. But secondly, you can imagine how these responses are going to translate into student outcomes. And so the second part of the project would be thinking about the academic performance, persistence, and behavior, or the major switching behavior of students, graduation, and also these post-graduation earnings outcomes. And so the Texas ERC data would help us answer these questions. We would be able to link students and courses and instructors. And this would really be able to help us identify the university the supply response and also the effect on students in the short and the long term. And so essentially what we will be doing to answer this is using a shift share instrumental variable strategy, where essentially each institution, they rely different essentially for their funding at the public university. Each university has a different share of their total revenue that's from state appropriations. And so when there is a shock at the state level, then that would affect institutions differently. And so we'll be able to identify, using this instrumental variable strategy, how these shocks will affect these different outcomes. But ultimately, understanding how these institutions are going to respond to these state appropriation shocks as, direct policy application. This is a direct policy instrument that the state of Texas and other policymakers could think about, and offers actionable insights for policymakers and campus administrators. So that's our project.
Great, thank you. Questions or comments from the board for the researchers?
I was just going to mention, I noticed that you're using institutional level financial data, but the coordinator board actually releases a report. It's called a report of fundable operating expenses. And it also provides institutional financial expense information that you might want to use for your analysis. And
could you say that one more time? Institutional.
No, it's called a report of fundable operating expenses, and it's publicly available. But and I think Melissa, you can speak more about it, but it's been used in other ERC projects. And also, I think it's in the faculty file, but you can see if a graduate or a non-faculty member is teaching a course. So I know you talked about whether, do these shocks change like the profile of the instructors? You mentioned tenure track, but you can also observe like non-tenure track instructors, and that would include graduate students. So you could see whether more graduate students are teaching kind of lower level classes, in response to these shocks. So I just wanted to mention those two things.
Oh, that's very helpful. Notes taken.
I didn't see it mentioned, and it's related but tangential to your direct research questions, but how you consider or at least acknowledge contributions like the Permanent University Fund or the Texas University Fund, these anticipated flows to endowment for a subset of the universities in the state, I think would be at least worthwhile to acknowledge, because although you're talking about state, sort of direct state appropriations, those have influence on how institutions are expending and are impacted by constraints in the resource allocations that are happening equally across all institutions. So that would be a space as you continue to do your work that I would encourage you to recognize at least in a review of literature.
No, that's actually very helpful. Thank you, Kathy.
Any other questions or comments? There aren't. Do I have a motion to approve?
This is Kathy. I'll move to approve.
This is Angie. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Proposal 14, including remote access request UTA 284. Evaluation of the Texas Dual Language Project. You have folks here to talk about this one.
Yep. Hi, everybody. I think someone said earlier this was their 10th year of presenting before the ERC, and this is my first. So thanks for having me. So yeah, this is the evaluation of the Texas Dual Language Project, TDLP. And this is a grant that's funded through the National Professional Development Grant Program from the U.S. Department of Education. So our partners at Ensemble Learning received this grant, and we're the external evaluator. So Texas is home to one of the largest emergent bilingual student populations in the country, with nearly a quarter of all public school students being identified as such. Texas has also long been a leader in dual language instruction, especially over the past 5 years or so, as the state has provided additional resources to incentivize the approach in which students receive instruction in both English and their home language. So as a part of those incentivization process, Ensemble, along with other organizations, help create a set of standards for instruction. And then in this grant specifically, Ensemble received funds to provide professional learning to staff in dual language schools. So they worked with 3 cohorts of schools throughout the state, in which they started off the school year with a 2-day professional learning session around different strategies, normal kind of sit and get professional learning. But then with a year of follow-on coaching for a subset of teachers within those schools. So teachers provided coaching for strategies around oracy, strategic separation of languages, cross-linguistic connections, biliteracy, reading strategies, and cultural competence. They provided coaching both in person and virtually. So they would sit in classrooms, observe, provide feedback on instruction, provide tools, resources, and then also conduct virtual check-ins over the course of the year. And over the course of the 3 cohorts, They worked with about 43 schools and 193 teachers. So over those 3 years, we conducted an implementation study of the project where we did focus groups with teachers, surveys, administered logs to coaches to learn what they were working on with teachers. And we find that the program was generally implemented as intended, especially in the second 2 years. First year was a little bit more inconsistency, but the last 2 years there was a lot of consistency in terms of delivering the intended amount of coaching and hitting on the intended content areas. When we did focus group with teachers, they generally had positive impressions of both professional learning and of the coaching. And surveys that we administered showed that their knowledge and confidence to use the dual language strategies increased over the course of the year of their participation. So now we want to see if there are benefits for students in those classrooms and in those schools. Specifically, we're interested in whether there are outcomes related to increases in students' English language proficiency, their classification as English learners or not, and their performance on state test scores. And to do that, we're proposing a quasi-experimental approach in which we'll first match the TDLP schools to non-participating schools, and then a second level of matching in which we match the students taught by the teachers that receive coaching to other students in those other schools. So yeah, we're excited to be able to learn from this data and provide feedback about the effectiveness of this program that should be of interest to policymakers and to other professional learning providers about the effectiveness of this kind of coaching.
Great, thank you. Questions or comments from the board?
I think we made a note that proposal is requesting 1 year of, whereas the remote form says 2 years. So there's discrepancy. Are you requesting 1 year?
So the grant will be only through 2026. So we would only request 1 year of access.
Sure, that was my mistake. Sorry, on the remote access.
Easily fixed. Other questions or comments? If not, do I have a motion to approve with the amendment of editing the time on the remote access form? I move to approve. Eugene?
I second Holly.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thanks for being here.
Thank you all.
All right, proposal 15, including remote access request UTA 285, building on the rock, how kindergarten readiness shapes long-term academic outcomes in Bear County through 3rd grade. Anyone here to talk about this one?
Yes.
All right, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I got to learn about everybody's proposal. And now let me tell you a little bit about mine. This study examines whether kindergarten readiness, as measured by Texas Kindergarten Entry Assessment and M-Class assessments, produces a causal effect on 3rd grade reading achievement, mathematics proficiency, and school attendance patterns among Bear County students. The research addresses a critical gap. Texas has made substantial investments in kindergarten readiness in the form of public pre-K and kindergarten readiness assessments. Yet local evidence demonstrating whether these assessments predict meaningful academic outcomes remains limited. I hope to close this gap. The study will employ propensity score matching to estimate causal effects of kindergarten readiness on 3rd grade outcomes using ERC data from kindergarten cohorts fiscal year ending 2019 through 2021. The research will match kindergarten ready students with similar students who are not ready at entry, controlling for demographics, family characteristics, public pre-K participation, and school contexts. The analysis will employ multiple matching approaches, including one-to-one matches, nearest neighbor, kernel matching, and course and exact matching to assess for robustness. I'll also be doing a sensitivity analysis to determine how strong an unobserved confounder would need to be to alter the conclusions. The study examines 6 primary questions. Does kindergarten readiness impact third grade reading, math proficiency, and attendance in Bexar County? Do impacts vary by student subgroups, such as family economic status, special education status, English language learner status, race, ethnicity, and gender? Do impacts vary by circumstances, such as the district that the student is enrolling in, or school, or teacher qualifications? I believe, let me scratch that, not teacher qualifications. I narrowed the study to not include that piece. But we will be looking at other circumstances like student mobility, prior pre-K participation, and the assessment instrument used. So whether it was the Texas kindergarten entry assessment or the M-class, whether there's a test effect on the outcomes. I'm also proposing a final question which looks at a comparison between the relationships we discover in Bexar County versus those statewide or in different regions across the state. The research will help validate our state's investment in mandating kindergarten readiness assessments by demonstrating whether the Texas Kinder Entry Assessment and M-class actually predict meaningful outcomes. It enables strategic resource allocation by identifying which early childhood programs effectively translate readiness into third grade success. The heterogeneous effects analysis will reveal whether current early childhood systems serve all students equally or whether certain populations are receiving a extra boost or maybe less of an positive impact on them. This addresses concerns identified in the literature where economically disadvantaged students and multilingual learners were more likely to fall behind even when entering kindergarten ready, suggesting readiness alone may not overcome structural barriers without continued support. Findings will inform early childhood program investment decisions across districts, regional service centers, and state agencies. The comparative effectiveness analysis of the 2 tests will guide assessment tool adoption decisions. Evidence on which student subgroups benefit most will enable development of more targeted interventions. Results may inform how Texas incorporates kindergarten readiness into its larger accountability framework and could motivate expanded state funding for early childhood education or drive policy reforms to address inequities in access and quality. I'm happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you. Questions or comments from the board? There are none. Do I have a motion to approve?
This is Rayan. I move to approve.
This is Holly, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, are you
Oh.
talking about reopening?
Yes.
Yes, we got a request to reopen data 6, UTD 192 quickly. Is that the right one, Molly?
Yeah, UTD 192. Lois, are you online?
Yes, hi, I'm here.
Okay, good.
So sorry, I think I realized that we made a mistake in the additional data request, which is that we requested report 8, CBM 08, the faculty report starting from 2022. But I think what we meant was to request the faculty report starting from 2000 and then the census faculty report, the CBM 0C8, it's not available until 2022.
Okay, so the 008 starting in 2000, and then the OC8 starting in 22.
Yeah, so if we could just basically request all years for both of those two.
For the faculty reports, okay.
Yes.
Any comments from the board before we run this one through? Do I have a motion to approve data 6 with the amendment to add the request for all years of the faculty data?
This is Holly. I motion to approve with the amendment to include all records for faculty. I don't know if there's anything else I need to say.
Yeah, with it. Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming back to me. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Okay, next item, adjournment. Do I have a motion and a second?
I'll second Celeste.
Who moved?
Then we have a match.
I
They
move.
kind of raised their hand.
Okay.
I thought you were motioning, but I guess you
Oh,
can't.
sure. Yes, I'm. Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We're adjourned. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good close to 25.